You're watching Pyro Media Network. Hello, Pyro Media family. Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience with us is fruitful. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. And we do hope you consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. All right, let's start the show.
Hello. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. I am Tasha Champion, host of She is Shenomenal, the Shenomenal coach of champion empowerment, always teaching you to love the champion you are. And we are back with a brand new episode. And I'm just going to, before I even give you guys my spiel and my message, I just want to let you know that we're having a very sensitive conversation today. Some might find it having more trigger warnings for them, but we are talking about invisible illnesses that really plague people. And my guest today, Nicole Curry, is just really a warrior for those that are dealing with lupus, and now her support group has grown to just women who are dealing with a multitude of things, but being able to find strength and encouragement and support through her group. So she's going to be here to talk about that. So if you have anyone that is dealing with those invisible illnesses, fibromyalgia, lupus, sickle cell, then grab them, send them the link, have them watch and join in on this show today. Nicole might be answering their questions. They can pop questions into the chat so that we can answer them. But it's definitely going to be a powerful episode. You're going to learn a lot. All right. So I'm looking forward to that. So a few things. The first thing I want to do, because last week we spoke about Black health, right? And we had someone talking about fibroids, Dr. Alika Jackson-Jarrell. We had Miana Kintauti talking about having heart condition. She had a heart attack that was tied to actually just her mental health. And then we had PA Genoa Holmes, who just really gave us so much insight into some of the things that we deal with. In light of that, because it was so informative, I want to take a moment just to send love and prayers to Jessica Petway. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. But she was a model and a social media influencer who was misdiagnosed with fibroids. And she recently transitioned into her eternal life from ovarian cancer. And ovarian cancer is sometimes known as the silent I'm going to be mindful of my words. It's a cancer that can be hard to detect sometimes. So I just want to send love and prayers out to her family and to the community of fans that really loved her and followed her. It's a very hard thing to deal with when you are constantly being misdiagnosed, which happens a lot for Black women. And I think when Nicole shares her story, there might be some of that in there. So again, this is going to be a very powerful episode. But again, prayers to Jessica's family. I want to also remind you guys, we are 2 months away. I cannot believe 2 months away from the Shenomenal Women's Retreat. It's really time to empower your true essence by nourishing your soul in truth. So if you want to know more about that, it is an all-inclusive weekend for women, May 17th through 19th in Indio, California. You are going to be loved on. You're going to be supported. I have my brilliant facilitators coming along with me, Bianca Page and Mika Morrison, who are also part of my Shenomenal team. So if you want to have that weekend away where you can let go of the overwhelm, you can let go of your day-to-day and just really connect to who you are, get back in touch with yourself, which is something all women need, I promise. That will be the weekend you want to give that self-care to yourself. So again, visit shenomenalretreat.com. All of the information is on there. We have some flexible payment options through Klarna, Afterpay, and Affirm. And it is really an affordable weekend. If you look at other ones, like this is a very affordable weekend retreat. And I did it specifically this way because I want women to be able to come and just really enjoy themselves, relax, let their hair down, and be amongst women who are there to do the same thing. So hopefully I will see you there. It's going to be really an amazing weekend. We also have the Shenomenal Women's Brunch coming up in September. So in the next few weeks, I'm going to be bringing you more information about that. We'll have a pre-sale for that because yes, it's 6 months away, but if you are familiar, we do sell out very quickly for the Shenomenal Women's Brunch. We are also accepting sponsorships right now. You can find out more information on shenomenalsponsors.com if you'd like to sponsor that retreat. It'll be amazing. Women from all over, including the men that support them, they come and they enjoy the brunch, which is truly it's captivating. It's very empowering. It's a lot of fun. And the food is amazing, y'all. It is really, really good food. So for more information, visit shenomenalbrunch.com. Again, if you're interested in being a sponsor, you want to go to shenomenalsponsors.com. But yeah, that's everything that's happening in my whole Shenomenal world. The retreat, the brunch is coming up. We're going to have just some amazing things. I'm all about making sure that women are taking care of themselves. And how can I support you to truly live your best life? That's what I'm here for. Because remember, I'm always teaching you to love the champion you are. All right. We're going to take a quick commercial break because I am really ready to get into this interview with Nicole Curry. She is also one of the co-authors of the Amazon #1 best-selling book, Shenomenal Women. So we're going to be talking about some of the things that she discussed in this book, as well as some of her day-to-day how do I want to say it? Some of her day-to-day lifestyle, living with an autoimmune disease, infertility, an invisible illness. It's a lot going on. You wonder, how does one person take all of this on and say, you know what, I'm still going to come out on the other side a warrior, and I'm going to support other women as they go through it too. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. Come right back here. Share the link so other people can watch too. We will be right back.
because self-care should be luxurious. Luxor Noir.
Hey pilots, did you know that you can now catch the electrifying sounds of Bullet in Flight Radio anywhere you go? Yes, you heard it right. Tune in to the high-flying beats and soaring melodies by downloading the TuneIn app on your mobile device. Just search for Bullet in Flight Radio and hit play. It's that easy. And if you have a smart device like Alexa or Google, just say, "Hey Google," or "Alexa, play Bullet in Flight Radio on TuneIn." Experience the rush of adrenaline wherever you are. Listen to Bullet in Flight Radio on TuneIn using your Alexa or Google devices. Soaring through the skies has never sounded this good. Don't miss out on the ultimate musical journey. Tune in now to Bullet in Flight Radio on TuneIn and let the music take you on an unforgettable ride. Get ready to elevate your listening experience. Brought to you by Bullet in Flight Radio.
Are you ready for enlightening conversations that transcend boundaries? Get ready for Conversations with Clergy, brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. In partnership with the world's largest publicly funded international collaboration, the HVTN is dedicated to evaluating vaccines to prevent HIV and COVID-19. But their impact doesn't stop there. The HVTN is at the forefront of advancing vaccinology, social and behavioral sciences, statistics, immunology, and even contributing to the research on tuberculosis and COVID-19 vaccines. By supporting Conversations with Clergy, the HVTN not only brings you thought-provoking discussions, but also contributes to the global effort to combat infectious diseases. Tune in, stay informed, and be a part of the change. Conversations with Clergy, supported by the HVTN, empowering conversations, empowering lives. Join us in this journey of knowledge, understanding, and progress. Conversations with Clergy, proudly brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network, because together we can make a difference.
Hello, welcome. We are back, and I am ready to bring in my guest, Nicole Curry, as we talk today about invisible illnesses. Hey, Nicole.
Hello, Miss Tasha.
How are you today? Thank you so much for joining and being so open about sharing your story.
Actually, thank you for hosting me. I am happy to be here on this wonderful Wednesday.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to just really dive right in, and then we're going to unpack and learn more about who you are. And the reason I want to dive right in is because there's a quote, as I told you all, she is an author, a co-author in the number one Amazon best-selling book, Shenomenal Women. And one of your quotes, I want to start here and then work our way back. You said, "Time flies when you're feeling numb, or rather living on autopilot." And the reason I wanted to start with that is because as you begin to share your story, I think it's important for people to really understand how you got to that point where you felt numb and you felt like you were living on autopilot. And there were a number of factors that went along with that. So, first, before we begin that, tell us just a little bit about who is Nicole Curry?
Wow. Um, that's a loaded question. No, Nicole Curry, she is a friend, she's a sister, she's a daughter, she's an author, she's many things to many people. But one thing she is, she's grounded. She's
Wow.
found her way back to herself. And for that, I'm very grateful.
Beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about that. And again, it's going to unfold during our interview. But what did it mean? What does it mean to find your way back to you?
Well, basing my answer on the quote, time flies when you're feeling numb, etc. I basically confused being numb with being invincible. And I hope that
Mm,
that makes sense.
absolutely.
So if you're not feeling anything, and I still struggle with that, I still
Hmm.
struggle with knowing what I'm feeling versus what I'm thinking. And oftentimes I confuse the two. So it's
Wow.
still a work in progress, and there have been some ebbs and some flows and some hills and some valleys with that. Some
Yeah.
victories and some, okay, some not so victories, but I'm growing, I'm learning. So a lot of that has to do with me finding my way back to myself,
Beautiful.
because how can you be in touch with who you are if you're refusing essentially to feel?
Exactly.
But I had a
Ex-
lot of reasons not to want to feel.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that.
Right.
We are definitely going to talk about that. Um, what made you decide to share your story so raw and so transparent in the book Shenomenal Women? Why were you ready to say, this is who I am, this is what I've been through? Because it's not always easy unpacking a story and then putting it in the hands of any and everybody to read, where you have to be so vulnerable, right? So what was it that made you go, you know what? I want to share this part of me.
Oh, I wasn't ready. Um, not at all. And if I remember the experience correctly, I was planning on writing about something else. And that is
Mhm.
just actually what came out on paper. That's actually what
Wow.
flowed together. Remember, our publisher, Miss Ty Davis, was asking us to pick a segment in time. And
Hmm.
that's what was going on in that particular segment in time. And so I
Wow.
wasn't going to draft a narrative. That's what I wasn't going to do. I was going to tell the actual story. But
Hmm.
I wasn't necessarily ready to go back down that particular avenue of memory lane. But I was willing, as long as it was going to support someone else, maybe along their journey. See, I have this thing where I don't necessarily like for my suffering to go to waste. So if
Hmm.
my suffering might assist, maybe even, I'm using air quotes, help someone else along their
Right.
journey, then that's motivation enough.
Right. It is. That and that's why we do the work that we do. I always like to tell people you're not really going through it for you. You're going through things to learn how to endure, how to overcome so that you can then help the next person.
Now,
And that's
mind you, I didn't realize that it was going to be remotely impactful until I started getting feedback from God only knows. I was blown away and humbled by the
Mhm.
feedback that I gotten because I had no idea.
Listen, it was a very impactful chapter. Like for those who have not gotten the book, Shenomenal Women, like run and order it. Read her chapter and really put yourself where she was. It's going to help you understand just so much more. And I can assure you, you may not be going through what she dealt with, but there's so much in her chapter where you get to really feel inspired to move forward in life, to do the things that you want to do and let nothing hold you back. So, in talking about the chapter, you started it with infertility, which
Yeah.
is a very sensitive topic for women. And it's definitely one of those invisible illnesses that no one sees, because as long as you walk and talk and stand and operate and move as a woman, it is put on you that you should be having children. And although some women don't want kids, I feel like we're in this society where as women age, as they mature, the first thing it's like, when are you gonna have some babies? Never knowing if that's actually hurting someone by saying that. So talk a little bit about learning that you would not be able to have children. What did you feel as a woman? How did you manage to move forward? What were the steps to move forward through that?
Ooh, how did I feel learning that I could not have children? Defective.
Wow.
I felt like a defective woman. And then I would say I went into a bit of hiding. I am
Hmm.
not necessarily, I'm not always in a vulnerable place, but I've learned to be more transparent. During that time, I was in a period of hiding. I knew how to walk the part, talk the part, you know. I've used this expression before, church girl with good Catholic school girl training. So, PR is kind of what I do and what I can do
Hmm.
well. So, but, secretly, I was going home or driving home every night in tears or just wondering how I was going to carry on. How was I dealing with it?
Hmm.
Maladaptively. Um, I had some habits.
Right.
um, I was engaging in some things that were self-destructive.
And you were so candid and very open about that in the book. Again, you guys, this may be very triggering for some, so I ask that you proceed with caution. But we're going to be very gentle in our delivery. Um, you said enter multiple episodes of reckless binge drinking and the repeated reoccurrence of a very destructive coping mechanism from younger days, cutting, self-harm. For me, razor blades and blood were like a twisted tonic. Each cut gave me a sense of euphoria and a kind of sick release by providing an escape. I cut to numb my pain. I cut to control the intensity of my pain. At times, I cut just to feel alive. Eventually, I was cutting just to cut because I couldn't stop. That was
And
a very powerful when I first read just the um when I first read your story, I was very taken aback. And I had to pause for a moment because that's so real to people. And was it just the infertility that was leading to this point? Or had you experienced other things in your health that was like, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, this is not the life I was supposed to have. And maybe I'm not supposed to be here.
all of the above. So,
Mm.
in short, no, it wasn't just the infertility, but during that time frame, I think that might have been the dominant thing
Hmm.
at the time. But then we were starting to lean over or transition into the period where I was getting that health diagnosis. So that too started to take its toll on my mental health.
Hmm.
We'll get into what the diagnosis is, but I am learning on that particular journey just how much that can play a role in your mental health as well, in addition to the medications they give you, et cetera, et cetera. So I
Right.
was engaging in a lot of self blame, and like some of it wasn't even mine. So,
Wow. Let's
um,
unpack that a little bit when you say some of it wasn't even mine. Because I do understand that we tend to hold everything. We hold the guilt of what we can't do. Like, in your
right.
chapter, you talk about people saying, like, when you going to give your mama some grandbabies? So then there's this guilt of holding that I can't do this for my mom. But what does that really mean when you say that?
Exactly what you're saying, that the guilt wasn't mine, the
Hmm.
shame wasn't mine, the burden wasn't mine. Some of those emotions that I was carrying, they were part of the self-destructive coping mechanism. They fueled it
Wow.
actually.
Yeah. And I just want to pause for a moment because I want those that are watching live, I want those that are watching the replay. Y'all, there is so much going on like in this world that's so minor compared to what people are actually going through and dealing with. So I really caution each of you to have just a little bit more compassion. Maybe that woman that bumped into you at the store, maybe she just left the doctor's office and was told she's not going to be able to have children. Maybe that person that's walking around with a mean face was just given a diagnosis. Like, we don't know what people are dealing with, and we need to just consciously be aware of how we are treating people. Because again, most things that people are dealing with, it's not on the surface. Like, no one has tattooed on their forehead, I have cancer, or I have infertility issues, or I've been
Absolutely.
diagnosed with this. So let's just really be gentle and kind with people. Okay, I just wanted to pause and say that. Nicole, talk about some of those other. First of all, let me rephrase this. I just want you to go through a list of things that you were diagnosed with. And the reason why is because I need people to understand how you are still sitting here thriving, not just surviving, but thriving and moving into spaces where you're helping other women through your story. So go through that list because there's quite a few things that you were diagnosed with and you're still standing.
I want to say something first.
Mhm.
To your point about empathy, really, what you're asking for each of us to do is have more empathy. I want to say that grace is tantamount. It is
Yeah,
important that we give the same grace that we kind of require, expect, or need in return. That's one
absolutely.
thing. Also, Miss Tasha, I'm listening to you reading the chapter and I'm going, wow, like I really wrote that. It's been a couple of years since I revisited that chapter.
Hmm.
And hearing it for the first time after a couple of years, it's like, wow, that really was candid,
Yeah.
and a little bit jarring, even
Hmm.
after hearing it, after having done a little bit of healing. But to answer your question about listing, the list is extensive, so I will go through like the autoimmune conditions. I have lupus, also known as SLE. It stands for systemic lupus. Help me with this last word, erythematosus, rheumatoid
Okay.
arthritis. Um, I have antiphospholipid syndrome, also known as sticky blood. It's a coagulation disorder. So there are times where the blood can be too thick, and there's also times when the blood can be too thin, which makes me a
Mm,
Coumadin patient. For those of you that know what Coumadin or blood thinners, anticoagulants, warfarin, it's considered a dangerous drug. It can be managed, and I'm
right.
pretty diligent about managing. Let's see, Raynaud's phenomenon, where the blood vessels in the hands and feet constrict based on the
Mhm.
weather. All of this is pretty much autoimmune. I'm missing something. Oh, brain fog. And I'm not even trying to be funny, but the cognitive issues, the cognitive impairment issues, the brain fog, the forgetfulness, not being able to remember simple words like, can you hand me? And I'm trying to say spatula, but I'm really like the pancake flipperer thingy. Like it's
Right.
embarrassing, but like you persevere. Um, okay, I'm a COVID survivor.
Mhm.
Um, that's kind of a story within a story. During the Shenomenal Women Project, my mom took ill, which you know, but I think very
Right.
few people know. There's an article in the Wave about it. But her caregiver, there was an incident with COVID. So we both ended up with COVID pneumonia. From that, I
Mm,
developed long COVID. From that, I developed mild lung scarring. Um,
okay.
but I am told that you would never know it by looking at me, and definitely from whence I've come from. And let's see.
I mean, let's be real. That's already
That's enough.
a handful,
Yeah,
mouthful. Like it's a lot. And
that's
I
enough.
just want to go into the comments. The core of you team, Kenneth and Bianca Page. They say, I applaud your transparency and authenticity, Nicole. You are helping with awareness on not speaking up about childbearing without regard to what could be going on with someone. And that's why I say we've got to definitely be a bit more sensitive with people, right?
Yeah.
So thank you, Kenneth and Bianca, for joining in today. Now, you said I'd come to understand that if I endured the very same pain I once viewed as punishment, it could
Mm,
also be transformed into power.
correct.
So before we head to commercial, our next commercial break, what did that mean? Because it's so powerful that you're like, I don't have to use this pain as punishment, which most of us do whenever we are going through something. We want to settle into, what did I do to deserve this?
Mhm.
Right.
What did
So
I do
what did
wrong?
that mean? Yeah, what did I do wrong? Why me? So when you say that the very same pain you once viewed as punishment, it could also be transformed into power. What was that awakening for you?
Hmm. I don't know that there was like one single solitary awakening moment, just
Mhm,
more moments like these, more moments of sharing and realizing that my story resonated with a couple of people or their story resonated with me. And again, the suffering in it, it
mhm,
stopped going to waste or it stopped going down, empty bottles without any resolution, without any
right,
sistering, without any, it's one thing to get together for happy hour and there's a sistering moment in it. There's a transparency moment in it. There's a moment of connection in it. But
mhm,
the truth be told, the suffering part of it, it stopped going to waste. So at whatever moment, I do remember having a conversation with a friend, which is also highlighted in the book
mhm,
about fertility. And when she shared her story, it was in me realizing that I wasn't alone. Not that I wanted her to suffer too, but for a minute, I felt like I had to be the only, 30 something on the planet that was
right,
enduring that. And so that's the power of suffering in isolation and how it can overtake you. It was in realizing that if I didn't have it, I needed to build a stronger tribe, a stronger community, a
beautiful,
stronger group, not just of sisters, but of men around me that would have my back. So
mhm,
I think it was in those moments that,
wow.
I began to get a clue. And those moments were not unto perfection. And we can talk about that when we come back from break.
Yes, we definitely can unpack that a little bit more because there's more to this conversation. But when we come back from break, there's a few things that I want to discuss. So I want you to think about this as we are
Sure.
on break. So, number one, I want you to talk about what is lupus. For those that
Mm,
may not be aware, they've heard the word, but they have no idea what it actually is, what it does to your body, how you are experiencing it, what were the symptoms that led to the diagnosis. So we want to talk about that. And then I also want to talk about, we mentioned it last week on the episode of She is Shenomenal, talking about our Black health. And then I endured it as well when I was BRCA positive, where people are just telling you, well, you just got to pray. Just pray. Just pray. Pray. It's going to get better. And then it's like you're praying, you're mad at God. You're just like, well, why am I going through this? It's not about like praying is going to solve everything, especially if you're not listening. You got to be able to pray and listen. But you did talk in the book of how you had pretty much disconnected from God. And then it was that one moment where you were like, wait, I disconnected, but God was still here. Right. And so I want to talk about how you kind of removed yourself from God because you were angry, but also how you brought God back into your presence to make sure that you were okay. Because I think
right.
that that's a big piece of it, right?
Yeah, it
So
is.
we're going to take a quick commercial break and we're going to come back and talk about what is lupus, how does it affect the body, And how do we go in and out of faith sometimes when we are hit with lifelong diagnosis? We'll be right back. We are back, and I am speaking with Nicole Curry. She is a lupus survivor warrior. We're talking about our invisible illnesses that sometimes plague people. There might be some technical difficulties going on right now, so we will kindly just wait for Nicole to pop back in. But I do want to just again remind you guys that it's super important we maintain empathy and having compassion for people. It's so easy to throw people away. It's so easy to just assume what someone is going through when you really have no idea. There's so many of us that are out here smiling and laughing and enjoying life and doing all these things, but in reality, we are dealing with a lot. And so that is where that compassion piece must come forward. And I'm speaking to myself. I'm not always 100% in my compassion space, and I have to be. I get to be. I choose to be. So it's a reminder for me as well. So we're back with Nicole. Now, Nicole, before break, we talked about your diagnosis with lupus in July of 2015. Tell
Right.
us, what is lupus and how does it affect the body?
So I kind of like to do the oversimplified explanation, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. So most people, their immune system can recognize a foreign invader, like a germ or a bacteria or a virus, and it'll say, hey, that's not supposed to be here. Attack, let's get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
But but like what's indigent, what's host to you, your immune system knows, okay, hey, let's leave that alone. My immune system or a lupus patient, what lupus is in a nutshell is it doesn't know the difference between
Okay.
host versus foreign. So it attacks
Mm,
everything. It can literally go, hey, is that looks like heart tissue? And I don't think that's supposed to be there. Attack, attack, attack. And so the next thing you know, you're headed for some kind of heart disease or heart failure, which is why it can attack any organ system. It can attack bloodstream. It can attack muscles, joints. It can attack anything. So,
wow.
how does it attack? It attacks by building up inflammation, essentially. And the
So then there's a
inflammation,
lot of pain.
correct. So it can cause pain, but if that inflammation builds up in an organ or an organ system, it can override it and shut it down.
Oh my.
Right.
Okay. I'm a little bit taken aback. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm a little bit taken aback right now. Um, because you are a Black woman and you are dealing with pain. And shout out to Coach Kiana Shaw. Thank you for joining us today. Um, you are a Black woman. You're dealing with pain, but
Yes.
on the surface, looking at you, it's like, she's not in pain. And what I've heard over the years is like with sickle cell patients, with lupus patients, sometimes Black women are treated as drug addicts. Oh, they just want to be in here to get drugs. They're not in any pain. They just want drugs. How have you been treated by our medical system?
True story. Um, by my personal medical team, I'm not treated like that because they're pretty much hand selected. I did my due diligence before I picked them. But let's say,
Okay.
for instance, I ended up in medical dehydration um, from one of these treatments I was given, and I had to go to the ER. And the first question, I want to say maybe before they asked me my name, was, "So are you here for pain medicine?"
Wow.
Actually, no, because at the time I was caregiving for my mom. So I knew if I got the pain medication, if it was administered, that they were going to keep me. So I couldn't get back home where I needed to be. Someone was filling
Mm-hmm.
in for me. I just kind of wanted to be evaluated. I needed to be hydrated, and then I needed to be sent on my way if that was the medical advice. But that was the advice I was given from my rheumatologist. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I was very much treated like I was drug seeking.
Wow.
But I have heard other lupus patients tell me, yeah, they checked in between my fingers and they checked in between my toes. And I went, yeah. So that's a
And
true phenomenon.
and that doesn't really happen to our white counterparts if they are dealing with fibromyalgia, again, an invisible illness where you're feeling there's so much pain. They're not treated that way, right? And
Right.
so, what do you really, how can you advise another Black woman that is dealing with lupus or sickle cell or anything that causes a lot of pain? What do you really advise in terms of getting the right medical team surrounding you to give you the best level of care and not be treated like you're some drug addict?
That they need an advocate.
Mm,
So that they not, if at all possible, if they not be present by themselves. And the advocate doesn't necessarily need to be physically present. Some advocacy can be done via telephone. Like if
hmm
you have your advocate on the phone, "Hi, I'm such and such as advocate. Like, can you explain to me?" It's just so that the hospital staff or medical personnel know that there's someone backing you and that there's someone in your corner and that you do not stand alone. That's very important, particularly for Black women, for people of
Yes.
color, period. So I've been
Mm,
an advocate. Like, what people don't know is that the lupus group on Facebook, it doubles as an advocacy agency. My cousin, who is Kathy McGill, Lord, she's gonna for this, but we advocate all day, just about every day,
okay.
for our fellow lupus warriors.
Wow. I
Mhm.
applaud you. I applaud what that you and her, because as an advocate for those going through cancer, I know that it can sometimes weigh on you and you have to have your moments to step away and still deal with yourself while still being there for someone else. It's kind of like this ongoing cycle. What does it mean to other people? Like when you say, wait a minute, that's not what should be happening. Let me be your advocate. Let me step in for you. Let me speak to your doctor for you. What do women, what's the response you get from women? Because of course, a lot of us don't even realize that, yes, you can have an advocate. And many of us aren't taught to advocate for ourselves. So you do need that. But what's the response you get from women when they're like, wait, you're going to do what now?
It's a little bit mixed, as you're saying, and also suggesting. I have found that it can actually be a teaching moment because, like, when I've had to have advocates, I'm the type that is quick to say, "I'm fine, I got it, I don't need any help." And so I find that especially in a lot of chronic illness warriors. So I
Mm-hmm.
get the response where they don't think that they need any kind of advocacy. It doesn't have to be me, it could be anyone, until they find themselves in a position where they do.
Wow.
And so, a lot of times it's a one-time thing, but we've had instances where they might return. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of instances where they might return. But
Okay.
to be honest, I'm usually the one that's shocked because anything that for them, particularly if it comes to fruition, or for lack of a better term, if it works, my cousin and I are usually the ones that are typically shocked, like, "Oh, well, we're of course overjoyed that it helped, but like, yeah, we're equally surprised that the results were that positive for the individual. But we're grateful."
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to talk about this faith piece. because faith plays a big part in our everyday life. Faith gets tested, it gets questioned. Um, so you said on one notable occasion, I was told that I just needed to pray harder for God to fix it because ain't no man gonna want you if you can't have babies. And then you say, there is something to be said for being told that you were inching towards death's door, towards unaliving, being unalived, that changes your personal philosophy on life and living. It was like someone turned the power back on or reconnected me to my power source. In the absence of the church building, preacher or altar, God and I were reconciled on the exam table in the rheumatologist's office. He had been there all along, waiting on me to trust him, even from the bottom of my heartache. So, talk to us a little bit about how you disconnected from that God source and how you reconnected to that God source.
If I had to in talking about it today, the source that I disconnected from, true indeed, I was angry. So I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like talking. That's one aspect of it. Also, the source that I disconnected from, can I use this terminology and not get in a whole lot of trouble? Was the churchy source, if that makes sense. That
Yes.
methodology. Um,
Okay.
that was a lot of what I pulled the plug from. And
Wow.
and went into, I've always had a personal relationship with God, with Jesus,
Mhm.
but this type of trial or encounter, however you want to put it taught me not to sweat the small stuff.
Hold on. I just want you to repeat that because there's people way in the back that did not hear what you said, and so many people sweat the
Yeah.
small stuff. So I just want you to repeat that again because when you got something so big, honey, them little things don't matter.
When the doctor said to me, my family, they tend to focus, family, friends, loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to focus on the lupus. However, like a lot of the crux of my issue, it's really lupus adjacent with the APS, which is also autoimmune, but that's the coagulation defect. But
Mm-hmm.
that thing causes blood clots. So when the doctor said to me, "You can form blood clots at will," you'd be surprised what all stopped mattering. Like
Wow.
who was mad and petty stuff and trivial stuff I could have gotten over but chose not to. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay. It was like all of the lights came back on, and what was important versus what wasn't important. I have another dear friend. She too is probably like, please don't say my name. Hi, Angie. But she said to me, there was the Angie before such and such happened and the Angie after such and such happened. I think that's the best
Absolutely.
way to put it. There was the Nicole before this and the Nicole after this. Now, there's a lot of before and after in my life, but with each after, there's a whole lot more growth.
Right.
There's a whole lot more learning. There's a whole
Yeah.
lot more triumph. So I don't always want to go through, but I'm usually the better for it after I've gone through.
And that takes strength in itself, right? You're so resilient. Nicole, what is your day to day living like? Walk us through just a typical day and walk us through a day where the lupus is now attacking, because I know that there is, oh, everything's fine. And then all of a sudden it just changes. So just kind of walk us through that day to day living in
Sure.
Nicole's world.
There is no day to day. Today was a good day. and tomorrow could be something else, but like I'm not going to get a memo like incoming tomorrow. I might
Hmm.
wake up and it just be a different story. So what I've learned to do is something that actually the non-technical term for this chronic illness, chronic fatigue syndrome. That community, they have a concept called pacing. And so
Okay.
pacing basically means you do a thing, you maybe do two things. You rest and or you take a nap. So that's what my day to day looks like so that I can pretty much quantify and or conserve my energy accordingly, according
Hmm.
to what I have to do, according to what I don't have to do. I have a lot of doctor's appointments and I do still, at least case manage slash caregive for my mom. So I
Right.
have responsibilities and whatnot. So I have to make sure I have enough energy for that.
With everything that you've endured,
Hmm.
from the infertility to the multiple diagnosis to knocking on the door of no longer being here, what wakes you up every day?
Knowing that I am supposed to be here. After all of that, and then there is a sidebar story to that,
Hmm.
and I'm still here. Clearly, God has made it abundantly clear that I'm here for a reason, for a
Yeah.
purpose. And so it's up to me to get up in the morning and figure out, okay, Lord, what are we doing today?
Yeah. I love that. I love that because we all have a purpose no matter what our day-to-day looks like. We still have to get up and be a part of that purpose. So in that purpose, when God is saying you're getting up every day and part of your purpose is to support and advocate and love on other women who need some of your resilience, who need some of your strength, and through that you created Sisters of Strength, a Facebook community that I'm sure lives on Facebook and outside of Facebook. But tell us about that group. If someone is out there that's like, I need support, because many people think support just means we're going to sit and cry all day, right? But why this support group and what can you offer to people about this support group?
SOS started out of an interview, something like this, with Dr. Dante Morrison and his co-part Dana from the Digging Deep with Dante show, actually. And
Hmm.
it was suggested, and I ran with the suggestion, and we formulated SOS, and it was initially going to be a group for lupus warriors and or chronic illness warriors, but so many people came to me needing a safe space. So
Right.
really what SOS is a safe space for those that are chronically ill on any platform. Like you said, we
Hmm.
had cancer warriors, sickle cell, fibromyalgia, etc. And
Yeah.
so the moderators, the co-admins, and I, we do our best to make sure that not only that the ladies are safe, that they're getting the information that they need, that the supporters, because some of them are supporters that have chronically ill relatives, loved ones, that
Right.
they're getting the information that they need. So that's basically what we do in the group. I mean, and we also have a lot of fun because we can say the things to and around each other that may be slightly offensive to our loved ones or to those that don't get our seemingly dark sense of humor. So it's
Exactly.
a good group.
Beautiful. Nicole, what does it mean to you to intentionally live?
Living intentionally means to me living with purpose, being present. It means being present to me because so many people, and this is just my opinion, my take on it, are
Mhm.
existing.
Right.
but I don't know that they're necessarily living. Like, to live, you have to tap in, you have to plug in. I've
Yeah.
learned that by using a few different modalities, like with lupus, and how I live successfully is by creating balance. So I think living intentionally, you have to create a balance in whatever you do. So for me, it's creating balance between getting enough rest and being active. I use
Mm-hmm.
a few different modalities for that. And like you mentioned about the Shenomenal retreat, etc. I am not always pristine, but I am at least okay to very good about my self-care for the most part.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. How can people connect with you if they want to learn more about your story, if they want to learn more about your journey or be involved in your support group? How can people reach you?
So here's the thing, the fastest way, and I know it's old school, but you can email me at
Yeah.
NicoleACurry77@gmail. And I don't want to touch anything on the screen because I'm very afraid. Like Mr. Kwame has me very afraid. But if someone could put up the link for Phenomenal Women and for SOS. I don't know if my cousin is watching, but you said Coach Kiana was somewhere in the thread. Like, she should be able to snatch it and throw it in to the chat
Yeah.
somewhere. Then, because if I touch it, like, it's all gonna crumble. Trust me.
Okay, so you guys can email her if you would like to maybe have her on your podcast and share her story to talk about her health journey and how she's continuing to show up not only for herself, but for those affected by those invisible illnesses. And Nicole, I want to just really applaud you. I want to just give you your flowers while you're here because there was a time where you felt like you couldn't be here and didn't deserve to be here. And so all of the binge drinking and the cutting was a way to drown and numb the pain. And then you got the calling, like, no, I get to help people. I get to serve in this capacity of the life that I've been given. And I get to intentionally wake up every day, have a relationship with God, and live purpose. And I hope by sharing your story that women out there and men, they just look at themselves in the mirror and go, you know what? I am a healthy, able body, and let me just get up and live. Let me do something because at this point in my life, there's nothing holding me back but me. And I feel like you gave us that today. So thank you for being so
Oh,
raw
God bless
about
you.
your infertility, about the different diagnosis, about caregiving for your mom, and still remembering that Nicole gets to take care of Nicole. So thank you so much for being the incredible phenomenal woman you are.
Thank you. And in closing, like, two things. I have to take the best care of myself so that the people around me, they get the best version of me. Like, even my mom will get better care. Also, I'm a firm believer you can only give of the excess that you have. Meaning, if
Yes.
you're on 25% battery, if you will, then you don't really have much to give. But
No.
if you can, find somebody to help, find somebody to support. It'll do both of you a world of good because it takes
Yes. I
the
love that.
focus off of, just your suffering. It will give
Yes.
you perspective.
Absolutely. I love that. And I'm glad she closed out with that because so many of us don't ask for the support that we need. And I want you to understand that you are worthy of the support that you need in your life. And sometimes all it takes is just asking someone and saying what you need. And the universe, God, Jesus, whoever your higher power is,
Right.
will provide exactly what you need in that support. So thank you for
Currently, I'm
joining
doing
us.
it. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode of She is Shenomenal. Take care of yourselves. Have a beautiful Shenomenal week, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Thank you all.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.